So we should have a militant, non-violent movement inspired by Che Guevara. So it's inspired by him. He wasn't, but militant. He wasn't a militant, non-violent person, but we're going to use his words and his philosophy for a militant, non-violent mass demonstrations, a prolonged mass demonstrations movement, which will shut down the whole town, right? And shut down the whole government, just like the federal government shut down. John Calipari, the coach of UK, he recently compared how the NCAA works compared to the government. He says the government's shut down, it doesn't work for the people, and the NCAA doesn't work for the basketball players. It should be democratic. They should be listening to what the American people have to say. And he is absolutely right about that. Also, this is Kentucky news, October 7th. Recently, a few days ago, you have the long ass lines at the UK fans getting all these tickets. Tent cities. So, we have all these tent cities in Louisville, Kentucky, and it's not cool to have tent cities in Louisville, Kentucky if you're poor, but it's okay to start a little tent city up, not for Occupy, not for a political reason or any protest, but if you're buying shit. If you're buying shit, you can line up at Walmart, Best Buy, get your tickets for UK. And so, UK confirmed Moore's observation later, announcing a record of 650 tents were up this morning, 3 days before the fans can actually get Big Blue Madness vouchers. So you got over 650 tents 3 days before they sell any of them. So leading into a season in which the Wildcats enter with the #1 recruiting class and national title expectations. So yeah, you have 16th annual Down syndrome of Louisville Walk Run, Louisville, Kentucky. Thousands took a step forward towards independence to advocate for Down syndrome. Saturday was the 16th annual Down syndrome of Louisville 5K Walk Run at Waterfront Park. More than 3,000 volunteers participated to celebrate the achievements of people with Down syndrome. This year's theme for the Walk Run was Steps to Independence, and celebrate the achievements of people with Down syndrome become more independent. Diane Mertz Wheeler, Executive Director for Down Syndrome of Louisville, started as a volunteer years ago, now helps put the event together every year. So that's a good thing that happened recently, right? So it's not all just bad news. Kentucky's wrestling also with how to deal with toxic algae. So there's lots of toxic algae all over Kentucky. They're at cautionary levels in Taylorsville, Nolan, Rough River, Barren River, Green River lakes after a summer of warnings and scattered reports of swimmers getting sick. Other Kentucky lakes and streams. Kentucky's got more waterways than every other state in the nation except for Alaska. But in the continental United States, we got more lakes and streams and creeks. And there's toxic algae in all of them, so don't be drinking, or not all of them, but in a bunch of them, so don't be drinking out of the, out of the creeks. Kentucky police work to ID human remains found in storage locker. This is published October 6, 2013. Fox News. Fox News always gets those sensational stories, but they're the only ones that actually covered this. Police in Kentucky are probing whether human remains found in a self-storage locker are those of a Delaware woman who vanished 16 years ago. WDKY-TV reports Stephen Terry purchased the contents of the Corbin-based unit at auction after the unit's owner died. So this guy buries this lady, maybe a Delaware woman, in a storage unit, okay? And then he dies, and then later on, when they're auctioning the unit off to somebody else, the person buys it, and he comes across the stuff. So interesting way to get rid of a body. Just buy a storage unit and rent it until you're dead. So while rooting through the bag-filled locker on Thursday with his father, Terry made the shocking discovery. I was moving some of them. A yellow bag was rolled up. I told my father it looked like some bones in there. After opening the bag and seeing a jawbone and what looked like ribs, Terry reportedly contacted the storage facility's management and called the police. The guy worked for me a little while his wife disappeared. Everyone thought he killed her. The 911 callers reported heard a dispatcher in the tapes. Now, police in Newcastle County, Delaware, tell WDKY-TV the remains could be those of Doris Ann Wood, the 42-year-old woman who disappeared on July 28, 1997, during a visit to her sister's home. She reportedly never arrived. We're following an active lead missing person case out of Delaware from 1997. Detective Rusty Hendrick of the Corbin Police told the station. According to WDKY-TV, Doris Ann's husband, Robert, who has family in Kentucky, was reportedly questioned in the case but never charged. Corbin police did not assist authorities at this time with some cadaver dogs. Believe it was the same case. So, more bizarre shit that's happening in Kentucky. It can get to be unbearable. It just happens. So much weird shit happens in Kentucky all the time. So you have tobacco for tobacco farmers. There's going to be this big vote in the European Parliament whether or not to allow tobacco to be sold with additives in it. And since Kentucky raises burley tobacco and lots of additives are needed to change the flavor of burley tobacco, I guess burley isn't very tasty. And it's not as gross. If you try to smoke like tobacco right out of the field, it does not smoke right. It's really harsh, and unprocessed tobacco is horrible. So if they don't allow additives into it, if the European Parliament doesn't allow the tobacco to be imported with additives, then that'll hurt Kentucky's tobacco farmers market. And Kentucky's tobacco has actually been going down due to the cheaper imports that people can raise all throughout the world. It has been sustaining for a while, but it is on its way out. The industry has been on its way out for many years. And a good replacement crop, since when you have one industry going down, you have to have something else, in its place in order to make sure there aren't just a bunch of unemployed farmers, would be hemp. And hemp right now, Senate Bill 50 is passed. Comer, the agricultural commissioner, pushed through the hemp bill, Senate Bill 50. And so right now in Kentucky, 2013, hemp is legal. And hemp and marijuana is actually the same seed. But just stick with the hemp industry is a massive industry. You can make a ton of money with the hemp industry. And being Kentucky, being the first one to legalize hemp, then we're going to be known, as a hemp nation. So the hemp would be a good replacement crop for the Kentucky farmers as the tobacco are going down. Hemp also, is rope, paper, oil. There's a ton of products that you can actually make with hemp. So, industrial hemp, actually having that legalized is a great step for the farmers that are going to be hit when the European Parliament votes that no additives can be added, especially for Kentucky's tobacco, which is burley tobacco. So, that's it. Those are the stories that I had posted up. There's I guess a little bit about the government shutdown. The government shut down for about 6-7 days now, for about a week. The debt ceiling argument is supposed to come up on the 15th, and so that's 8 days from now. And it seems like the Republicans are liking the attention. It's a mixed bag. Mitch McConnell doesn't like any of this because he's basically just caught in this a whirlwind. He got solicited Rand Paul's endorsement, and the Rand Paul and Michelle Bachmann, Tea Party radicals, Tea Party anarchists, have shut the government down. So they have been able to, successfully say, hey, they shut the government down. I heard they was talking to the foreign press about this, and it's like, wait a second, you shut your entire government down to stop people from getting health care? My God. They must think we were just capitalist on acid or just capitalist on crack, right? Just a bunch of methed out, blood-sucking capitalists, right? Who gives a fuck about anybody else? It's only about our kid. Fuck your kids. That's not my responsibility. Your kid is your responsibility. Or that kid is her mother's responsibility. I don't give a shit about that kid. It's her mother's responsibility. Okay, and while that I agree with, in terms of austerity and self-reliance and independence, Actually, I don't agree with that. The Obamacare isn't perfect, but it's good and it's a step in the right direction. And considering all those things, it'll get implemented. And in fact, it almost feels like Obama's playing the game like with them. He's allowed, okay, fine, you all want to shut the government down? All right, government shut down. So now what? How are things going to get run? You know, this is what you wanted. Here it is. Let's do this. And so, you know, they threatened to do this because he's going to fund Obamacare. That's what he's been in government the whole time to do. They are just a bunch of, Elizabeth Warren was exactly right. These psychos are just like in some bizarre world, and they've been railing against this forever. 41 times they've already voted to defund it, and they couldn't get that passed. And so now they're, you know, doubling down, and they're just like, well, fuck it, we're just going to shut the whole government down. Ted Cruz started this with, you know, or did his filibuster, so he got all the attention for the entire nation. It was so a small faction led this, and then he got yelled at, and all these Republicans are kind of turning on him because they don't think this is going to turn out well. But it's ideologically exactly what they've been talking about the whole time, so they're pissed off for him actually doing something about the shit that they've been talking about. They don't like Obamacare. They want to defund it. All right, then shut the government down in order to defund it. It is fucked up that I feel like this tactic was used in Newt Gingrich, you know, for like 20 days in the 90s. And if you actually seen, I saw this one map. It has like all the years that government's been in action, and only like 2 or 3 dots of when it's been shut down. So it shows how very few times, you know, the government in America has been shut down. And since the government has been shut down in America so few times, this is a, you know, this is an outlier. This is a you know, what's another word for outlier? It's not the norm. It's, you know, it's not the average. So it's an outlier, and I don't know. Okay, so it's you know, it's an exception to the rule. It's not the rule. And you know, I don't know where all this is going to go, but there's an overall point. Oh, the overall point is this is such bullshit that, you know, the spineless Democrats didn't shut the government down on Bush. They didn't shut any of the funding down on the Iraq War, on the American Empire, the prison industrial complex, the military industrial complex. They didn't shut him down. They just spoke, you know, this, we don't want war, but they didn't give a fuck. They didn't shut it down for the Patriot Act. They didn't shut it down for the NSA wiretaps. Patriot Act, NSA wiretaps, our phones, our emails. They're listening to every goddamn motherfucking thing we're saying. Every fucking thing we're saying. Every fucking thing we're saying. Recording it all in a big ass vault. They're gonna save it for a million fucking years, and what? Someone's gonna read every stupid fucking thing every stupid fucking person said? That's bullshit. It's definitely an invasion of privacy. It's search and seizure, you know, without a warrant. And, you know, it's ridiculous. It's bullshit. And, of course, everybody is rightfully against it. Whenever the SOPA, whenever the internet was faced with, you know, their privacy directly being affected, the Wikipedia and Google and all those major websites, companies, internet companies, shut their page down and says, you know, until this is resolved, we're not going to show ourselves back up again. And that's remarkable. When they did it, the people got their way. Syria, the people got their way. Right now, the majority of people want healthcare. They're going to get their way. Obama's going to win this fight. He's going to win the fight because, you know, he's out there on the campaign trail, and he's pointing out exactly what the fuck they're doing. And the Republicans have been obstructionists the whole goddamn time, and the point is to make Obama fail so then you can blame the bad economy on the black president. And when you can blame the bad economy on the black president, you get reelected. That's the tactic. They're playing the American people like they're fucking stupid. So the Republican Party is on this stupid, you know, snowballing effect gravy train, and they just couldn't stop themselves. So, you know, we don't stop the government with the homelessness. We don't stop the government with the war on poverty or pollution, child abuse. Kentucky's #1 for so many shitty things. We're the fastest growing prisons. #1 for the worst mental health. Obamacare would help that. We're number one for cancer. Obamacare would help that. We're number one, for child deaths and child abuse cases. Number one for, I don't know if I said pollution or not. And number two for toothlessness, and we're always in the bottom when it comes to education and lots of different healthcare indicators. Heart, cardiovascular disease, sixth. Unnecessary hospitalizations, just going to the ER, we're really high, so we're not, very frugal. Number one for binge drinking, for smoking. So, poor, sick, dumb, stupid, crazy. That's fucking Kentucky. Of course, we should shut the government down if they don't give us fucking health care. Give us fucking health care, or we'll shut the government down. That's the way it should be.